Hello everyone, this is part 21 of What If Naruto and Hinata trained together and a spark happened, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Visible red chakra danced all over Uzumaki's body and four tails of energy whipped behind Naruto's body. His face elongated, and his canines became more pronounced. And his eyes, ferocious, pitiless, crimson, roamed over the other three-leaf warriors, evaluating them. There was no doubt in any of their minds who was in command of Naruto's body. Sakura charged forward, even before her genjutsu had fully faded. But the Kyuubi backhanded her with Naruto's left hand. The pink-haired Kunoichi rocketed away, as if her vaunted strength were non-existent. The fox demon watched Kakashi carefully, but the Jonin did not move. "I suppose I owe you," the monster told her host teacher, "for driving him to this point. But then, what use is gratitude to a corpse? You think you can defeat all three of us?" "TCH," the demon snorted in disgust, "the girls are too tired to be a threat. And despite your bravado, you are only slightly less worn than your students. Normally, that would make you beneath my time, but I have a special reason to end you. Once I kill the three of you," Naruto's stolen face twisted in a murderous grin, "the Kit's spirit will be broken, and I will be able to take control of this body permanently." Her glare and the force of her chakra held the copy ninja in place, confirming her claim about Hitaki's state. Then the Kyuubi looked up at Hinata, viciously happy. Her blood-red orbs met Hinata's silver ones with an expression of murderous triumph. "You have no idea how much I have been longing for this day, girl," the monster almost purred. "I was figuratively beside myself when I thought Doroku had killed you. I thought that Bloodsucker had managed to steal my prey once again. I gave up my chance in the hidden sound, because there were too many people around. But I knew if I was patient, I would get this chance." "Why?" Hinata forced out, "What have I done to you?" "Directly. Nothing," the spirit shrugged, and Hinata's body shook from the movement. "The fact that you are a friend of Naruto's would normally be enough. But you are a special case. You make him happy, and you can calm him down. You have undone so much of my hard work influencing him. That's why you are first, and you will be the one I enjoy the most." "Na? Naruto," Hinata murmured. "The kit is not available to take your call," the fox mocked, "but if you leave a message at the sound of the breaking vertebrae, I will make sure he gets it." Croon. Even as she started to pronounce the onomatopoeia of something breaking, the demon started to close Naruto's hand. Unable to delay, the Jonin teacher started to make his move. Before Hitaki could complete his first hand sign, the stolen body froze. "Hold it right there, you stupid fox." Uzumaki's left eye had gone back to blue, and his left arm was clear, but the rest of his form was still wrapped by the Bijuu's energy. His face was oddly distorted, the left side partially reverting to its human mode, while the right side maintained its beast-like appearance. "If you don't, it will cost you." Again, Naruto's voice was somewhat hollow, but was not touched by the monster's dark growl. "What was that, Kit?" the demon asked, feigning confusion. Naruto's left hand snaked down to his hip pouch, and retrieved one of the black kunai Hinata had given him for his birthday. He pointed the blade at his uncovered heart, pricking his skin. "If you so much as twitch that hand," the possessed Chunin insisted, "I will kill us both." "No, you won't," the demon insisted. Had the situation not been so dangerous, Kakashi would have found the sight of Naruto arguing with himself amusing. "You want to live, you little punk," the monster sealed in the Chunin taunted, "you won't kill yourself." At the same time, one of her tails snaked around, trying to grab the arm she could no longer control. However, when the red chakra extension touched his flesh, a bolt of blue energy shot out and the tail partially dissolved before the 9 tails could retract it. "Yeah, I don't wanna die," Naruto agreed, "but you should know by now what I'll do for my comrades. I'd trade my life for any one of them in a heartbeat. But for Hinata'll plunge this kunai into my heart before I let you put a single mark on her skin." "You're bluffing," the fox denied, her chi extremities whipping about nervously. "Stop trying to act all too, irk." Her claim was cut short as Naruto slid the knife into his chest. The razor-sharp ceramic cut effortlessly through skin and muscle, brushing against his rib. He stopped his pressure a fraction of an inch before it would have cut his right ventricle. Blood spilled from the wound, running down his uncovered chest. I'm not playing around here, the human side informed his monster side. In fact, I'll give you to the count of 3 to let Hinata go, or I'm gonna finish it. 1. The demon-controlled side of his face seemed to flicker. Hatred, rage, and deep, uncertain fear, all ebbed and flowed across Naruto's right eye and the right half of his mouth. She kept his right hand perfectly still, but the bicep and shoulder trembled from her warring desires. 2. I can let the girl go, and grab his hand, the fox spirit decided, and then sharpen these faux tails into blades, and cut down Hinata and Kakashi in one move. Naruto had never tried something like that before, but the monster was sure she could do it. And even if she failed to compress the chakra, she could stop the kit, and knock the other 2 around. Then once her Jinchuriki was under control again, she would finish the others. Then the calamity-made flesh realized she had been planning too long, but the human had not completed his count. I knew you didn't have it in you, she crowed, you are all tal. For the 3rd time, Naruto disrupted her taunts, this time through force of will. He took control of his neck, burning most of his remaining chakra so he could tilt his head to look into Hinata's 2 eyes with the one eye he controlled. I loved you, Hinata, he said sadly. The demon took that as an admission of defeat, but she could not have been more wrong. Naruto roared as he reversed his hold on the stealth blade. With the increased torque of the underhand grip, he forced the blade deeper into his chest. No, the fox howled in fear, all of her plotting forgotten. She released Hinata, trying to grab Naruto's left wrist before it was too late. As she fell, Hinata sent more chakra into her eyes than she ever had before. She watched how his 2 energies mingled without merging, until she almost thought she could see the individual souls of Naruto, Uzumaki and the 9-tailed fox demon. Time seemed to slow for her as she studied the shimmering seal on Naruto's stomach. She could see every detail of the 4th Hokage's technique, both the fine details of the inscription, and the lingering traces of Minato's chakra. And underneath it she saw the other, hidden jutsu that split the demon's essence almost in 2. The pieces fell into place in her mind, things Naruto had said, the theories of sealing they had learned at the academy and she had studied since then, and how the 8-trigram divination seal worked. Mi, Uma, Hitsuji, Saru, Tori, Inu, I, Ne, Ushi, Tora, Ushi, Tatsu, she proclaimed, before tracing the kanji for dragon on Naruto's abs, just above the existing seal. The trail of her digit continued to glow brilliantly with a pale lavender chakra. Uma, Hitsuji, Saru, Tori, Inu, I, Ne, Ushi, Tora, Ushi, Tatsu, Mi, she continued, and then drew, snake, to the right of the dragon, and slightly lower. She continued the pattern even as her feet touched the dirt, going through all 12 signs in order, concluding each set by transcribing the next kanji in the series. Horse, ram, monkey, rooster, dog, pig, rat, ox, tiger, and finally, rabbit, appear on the blonde Chunan's trunk, circling his seal like a divine clock. I invoke the 12 noble animals to trap this beast, she intoned, divine arts, zodiac seal. Lines spread out from each of the dozen kanji, connecting them to one another, and forming a web over the 8 trigrams divination seal. As the closest symbols connected, the red chakra began to recede from Uzumaki's body. No, you can't, the fox cried out. But her protests came to naught. The second seal stripped her control of her container's body, driving her power and her very soul back into the prison. After the demon's aura had faded, Naruto collapsed forward, and despite her own exhaustion, Hinata leaned in and caught him. Kakashi moved forward, not unaware that the current posture resembled the kanji for person. He supported them both, and Sakura suddenly snapped out of her reverie. The other kunoichi put her arm under Hinata's shoulders, so Hatake could carry Uzumaki. Let's get them back to their tents, their teacher said gently. But the Hyuga heiress shook her head. I want to stay with Naruto, the pale beauty insisted. After a moment of consideration, Kakashi nodded. Naruto awoke with the feeling that no time had passed. He started to sit up, but a weight on his chest stopped him. He turned his gaze down, and saw Hinata, asleep, lying half on top of him. Her head rested on the right side of his chest, and her right hand gripped his left shoulder. I thought you would sleep through the night, Kakashi's voice wafted to Uzumaki's ears, but I should have known a little demonic possession couldn't keep you down long. Naruto shifted his head so he could see his teacher. The Jonin was sitting in front of the door of his tent, watching the younger man with both eyes. It wasn't a dream then, Naruto whispered, I was kinda hoping it was. But I guess I'm not that lucky. Tears began pooling in his eyes as he set his head back down on his pillow. I almost killed Hinata. That wasn't you, Hitaki shook his head, and either way it doesn't look like Hinata holds it against you. In fact, I'm quite proud of the both of you, Kakashi said tenuously, you managed to take back partial control from the Kyuubi, and then forced her to back down. That is one heck of an accomplishment. And Hinata, the copy ninja shook his head with amazement. What did Hinata do to me? The blonde Chunin asked. He flexed his chakra, causing both seals to become visible on the part of his belly not covered by his girlfriend. She put a zodiac seal over the 8 trigrams divination seal, Kakashi explained, I didn't even know she knew that technique, and she executed it in that circumstance. You sound really impressed. Naruto managed to feel happy for Hinata despite his generally depressed mood. The zodiac seal is an S-rank ninjutsu, the teacher enlightened his student, and is generally considered the second strongest seal. There are only a handful of shinobi in the world who know the technique. But wait, pervy sage told me mixing seals is a bad thing, Naruto protested. When he was teaching me about seals, he finally told me about the seal Orochimaru put on me during the Chunin exams, and that the seal the snake put on me messed up my chakra control, and my ability to use the fox's power. Is that going to happen again? No, the problem you had that time was because Orochimaru put a 5-pointed seal over the 8-pointed seal, Hitaki answered, mixing odd and even point seals never works out well. But Hinata put another even-numbered seal on you. So you might suffer a minor loss of the fox's chakra, maybe 5%. But otherwise you should be the same as ever. Naruto nodded, and then thought of something else. So if the zodiac seal is the second best seal, does that mean the 8 trigrams divinity seal the strongest? The fox-faced teen asked. No, it's actually the 4th or 5th strongest, depending on what you are sealing, Kakashi shook his head. Minato-sensei was never quite as good at sealing as Master Jiraiya, which is probably why he also used the Reaper Death Seal to divide the fox's chakra first. Then Kakashi realized he had let something slip, and he quickly stood before Naruto could think to question it. You should go back to sleep, the Jonin advised, we're going to take a break tomorrow, but then we'll go back to training, just at a more reasonable pace. Hinata, Naruto said regretfully. She met his eyes, and with great difficulty, he continued, I really don't want to stop you, but I think we both need to get some sleep. She nodded, and settled back down, resting her head on his shoulder. Besides, Kakashi and Sakura are close by, and this tent isn't exactly soundproof. Hinata Hyuga turned bright red. How are you doing? The Jonin asked the medic as he zipped up the flap to Naruto's tent. He suspected that now that he was gone, Hinata would stop pretending to be asleep. The demon hit you pretty hard, he remembered. I'm fine, she said softly, still watching the tent. It cracked a couple of my ribs, but nothing too major. I already fixed the damage. He nodded, studying her expression. I understand if this changes how you feel about Naruto, he told her supportively. I mean, we've both seen the fox take over before, but usually it is just a raging beast. I've never seen the monster that calm and in control before. It rattled even me. I still haven't sorted it all out, she admitted, but I think it will change how I look at Naruto. Just not in the way you're thinking. It's like you said, she explained, the fox was more terrifying now than it was when we fought Orochimaru and Kabuto. This time I could really see why it is, the calamity made flesh. But this time Naruto fought it off. He took back control, and made the demon back down. Every time I think I know his limits, Sakura said, almost blissfully, he goes and does something like this. Something that should be impossible. Well, I guess that's good. Kakashi sounded surprised. I was concerned this might be a problem for the team, but if you and Hinata are both okay, I guess was worried for nothing. Naruto vaguely remembered falling asleep, so he had to assume that the beautiful, sun-drenched field was a dream. There were idyllic mountains in the distance, and amidst the grass were flowers of every possible color and configuration. I have to say, Kit, a soft, tired voice rumbled behind him, your girlfriend is a much nicer jailer than Namika's was. Uzumaki pivoted, and found himself not even 10 feet from the nine-tails fox demon. Though the vixen looked smaller than usual, a mere 40 feet in length, there also appeared to be nothing restraining her. Naruto jumped back, reaching for his weapons, but the plain t-shirt and sweatpants he wore sported none of his ninja tools. What are you freaking out for? The fox asked grumpily, it's not like I can reach you. My guess is the reverse is probably true, too. To illustrate, she lifted one of her tails and flicked it towards him. After the appendage passed a certain point, the seal reacted. The flowers burst from the ground, growing and meshing until they formed a giant lattice of vines in between Naruto and the monster. The space between the plants was enough for Uzumaki to get his hand through, but too small for any more than the point of one of the vulpine's tails or claws to fit through. The vertical net gently rebuffed the swinging extension, and when the fox withdrew it, the flowers shrunk back into the ground. Not bad, Hinata, Naruto grinned. Appreciate it while you can, the demon growled. Remember how I said she hadn't done anything to me? Well, now she has. Before, I might have let her go if she wasn't around when I broke free. Now, I will hunt her down. I don't buy it, Naruto shook his head. Aside from the fact she could seal you again, you just had a perfect chance to kill her, and you didn't. I think you really are going soft. The monster roared, and threw herself at him. The barrier sprang up, and she bounced harmlessly off the foliage. She hurtled forward again, but the net flexed gently under her pressure, and then pushed her back. I'll admit, I made a mistake, the vixen panted, regaining control. I decided to have some fun, to get the smell of their terror before I finished it. I should have broke your girlfriend's neck as soon as I grabbed her, and stabbed Sakura instead of just punching her. Maybe, he countered, unconvinced, but you still could have finished Hinata while I was counting. Fortunately for both of you, killing Hinata Hyuga is number 3 on my list. She settled back down, not looking at him. Staying alive and getting free both come before that. If I had killed her, you would have killed us. But you said before you wanted to die, he protested, during the fight with the Reaper. I have my melancholy moments, she shrugged, times when I think death would be preferable to being trapped forever. But given the choice, I would live. Just go away, Kit, she commanded, I'm tired. Then her chakra flowed at him like a torrent. The zodiac seal's lattice appeared, but the energy flowed through the gaps. It struck him like a tsunami, and pushed him out of the dream. Naruto awoke, gasping against a liquid that was not there. As he recovered his breath, he recognized Hinata's weight on him still. Letting out a deep sigh, Naruto tried to get back to sleep. After giving him the previous Saturday off, Kakashi resumed their training at a more reasonable pace. The Jonin let the Chunin eat the food they had brought with them, and cut the mass of the weights they were wearing by more than half. He had Hinata carefully monitor Naruto's chakra levels, and limited them to one, more carefully moderated genjutsu session. All the precautions proved unnecessary, as Naruto did not hear a peep from the fox after his dream. When he told them about his encounter with the demon, they were all interested and mildly anxious, though Uzumaki could tell his girlfriend was secretly overjoyed by the description the prison she had crafted, while their teacher was more worried than he let them see. This in turn had briefly concerned Naruto, though he wasn't quite sure why. So, Kakashi-sensei, Naruto suddenly called out as they were packing, I know you said I couldn't make Jonin, but I got Tokubutsu Jonin wrapped up, right? You did good, Naruto, Kakashi agreed, but it's hardly a sure thing. Your past could still influence things, as could your inhabitant. Naruto wasn't listening after the initial compliment, and the warning rolled right off him. Anyway, barring any missions, you guys should keep practicing for the next 3 weeks, he counseled them, but also try to take it easy. Hey, Hinata, are you busy tonight? Naruto asked as the pair started walking back towards the village. No, she shook her head, did you have something in mind? Naruto took out his phone, and fiddled with it briefly. He then showed her the screen. On the display was the 14th entry stating simply, the shoe. I mean, we haven't been there since before the whole movie mission, he told her, so I've barely had a chance to break in my new shoes. That sounds good to me, Hinata agreed joyfully, shall we say 6 o'clock? As the couple planned their latest date, Sakura addressed their leader. Do you really think we are ready, Kakashi-sensei? She asked nervously. It's hard to say, Hitaki admitted, sometimes politics comes into play as much as skill. But just try your hardest. If you don't make it this time, there will be other chances. Either way, I think all of you will do a fine job. Except for Naruto and his genjutsu test, he qualified with a shake of his head, indicating his lack of comprehension over his student's block. Hey, Kakashi-sensei, Naruto shouted back, do you and Yugao-sensei want to join us? I wish he would quit shouting that to the world, the copy ninja groaned, catching up to admonish the loudmouth. Sakura smiled petulantly, trailed behind them, alone. What do we do now, Lord Pain? The blonde-haired man asked, derisive despite the respect of his phrasing. Deidara-senpai has a point, the younger masked man to the blonde's right interjected, I mean, I was called on to replace Sasori-sama, and we finally found a replacement for Orochimaru. He nodded towards the woman in the shadows behind the brown-haired man who sat opposite him. And I'm sure she's cute under all those bandages, the light-hearted rogue continued, but was still down 4 rings. Securing the land of grass for now is all well and good, but even if we captured the 6 or 9 tails, or recaptured the 7 fins, we won't be able to perform the 9 consuming seals. There is more than one way to transfer a demon, Pain told his subordinates, they are just slower and more dangerous. So I see no reason to delay. Deidara, you will accompany Zetsu on his new partner's final test. Toby will assist Conan in evaluating the candidates for the rings we have recovered, while I help our experts prepare the alternate extraction technique. What? Deidara exploded, why are you letting him be the judge for? Because he doesn't blow up my less powerful minions for fun, Pain reproached mildly. Nobody appreciates art, he grumbled. Then he gestured at the pair he was to team with, and announced, let's go. The woman behind Pain and the bizarre man seated on the other side of the talkative renegade nodded in unison, and then all 3 vanished in bursts of air and dust. Are you sure we can trust her? The remaining woman asked the masked man pointedly, once she was sure the others were out of range. Of course we cannot trust her, Conan. Madara removed the mask, his voice dropping an octave and his speech becoming more precise, but her motives are simple and obvious, making her easy to control. That fact, combined with her raw power, makes her a useful tool. Perhaps not so useful as you and Pain, but too valuable to be discarded without thought. The dark-haired Kunoichi looked at the true leader distastefully, but nodded. He replaced the mask, and bowed graciously. Shouldn't we get going, then, Conan-sama? Toby asked lightly. First, previous ch60 of 170 next. Review. Jump. Share. Email. Facebook. Twitter. Story. Follow favorite. Author. Follow favorite. Contrast. Dark. Light. Font. Small. Medium. Large. XL. Twitter. Help. Sign up. Cookies. Privacy. Terms of service. We use cookies. By using our services, you acknowledge that you have read and accept or good morning, Sakura. Rock Lee shouted stiffly when he saw the younger woman. Are you ready for our briefing? The pink-haired woman asked, joining him. Of course, he flashed her a grin and a thumbs up, and she could have sworn his teeth sparkled, I will not let you down. Great. Sakura's smile was slightly uncomfortably. Lee's corny earnestness could be off-putting, but she knew him to be reliable and hard-working. So, how was your training trip? He asked her. It went well, she said uncertainly, and not just because of Naruto's episode. Lee did not seem placated by the statement. We practiced our basics, and learned some new advanced techniques, she offered. That sounds rather tame for 2 weeks with Kakashi-sensei, he frowned, Guy-sensei will be quite disappointed. Well, it's just, she said softly, I didn't know if you were competing, and I didn't want to rub it in. That is very thoughtful of you, he nodded appreciatively, but of course I will be participating in the Jonin trials. Even though, she could not vocalize the question. Even though I cannot ever attain the rank of full Jonin, barring some sort of impossible miracle event, he confirmed, slightly bitter, I can still become a Tokubutsu Jonin, and show the world my Nindo in that way. I'm sorry, Lee, she said with honest regret, it doesn't seem fair. Quite the contrary, Lee smiled broadly again, it is the Chunin exams that are unjust. The Jonin trails are completely fair. But anyone can become a chunin. The younger woman was confused, there are no restrictions. Precisely, the taijutsu expert agreed, consider Ninja A and Ninja B. Ninja A is an expert tracker, a talented leader, and knows a variety of ninjutsu, genjutsu, and taijutsu. And on the other hand, we have Ninja B, who is a combat monster, but has no genjutsu, is a total loner and has all the stealth of. Well, of the Naruto of 4 years ago. Ninja A helps her team through the first 2 parts of the exam, while Ninja B coasts through on the talents of her teammates. Then in the finals, Ninja A and Ninja B fight. Ninja A could defeat any other participant, but she is decimated by Ninja B. And in the end Ninja B is promoted while Ninja A is not. It is not an uncommon occurrence, in the chunin exams, but it is totally unfair. Sakura nodded. But that is not possible in the Jonin trials, Lee continued, the minimum necessary skills are carefully set down but the conclave of shadows. A village that bypasses the qualifications and promotes its people to Jonin can get themselves in a great deal of trouble. And because the tests are all one-on-one, no one may sneak through with the help of his or her comrades. You've given this a lot of thought, Lee, the medic smiled softly. Yes, well, the bushy-browed warrior blushed, it took me some time to come to terms with the fact I could never attain the highest rank. They continued the rest of their way to Ninja Ops in silence. I'm sending you 2 on a rescue mission, the Hokage informed the pair, after the pleasantries were out of the way. A blacksmith, Tetsuo Masamune, from a small town in the southern province has been kidnapped by a group of bandits operating just over the border, in the land of tea, Tsunade informed the teens. So we are to save Masamune and put down these rogues, Lee announced loudly. Yes and no, the Sannin shook her head, unless there is literally no other option, you are not to engage the kidnappers. Sneak in, get the target, and escape. I do not understand, Lady Tsunade, the taijutsu expert said what was on the younger medic's mind, should we not eliminate these ruffians? After all, if we do not, what is to prevent them from capturing the craftsman again? Tsunade studied them both for a moment, and decided it would be easiest and safest to trust them. This is not to go beyond this room, she ordered them sternly. Both shinobi nodded. Those bandits are an up-and-coming group with growing ties to a certain, larger syndicate, she explained, both the Leaf and Mist villages have agents in this band, hoping to insert our people into the primary target. If we were to take down this group too soon, we'd lose that chance. But at the same time, we can't let them use this smith to produce stronger weapons and armors. Lee bobbed his head again, but Sakura asked thoughtfully, why send us then? Why not send an Anbu team? There are a number of reasons, the Hokage smirked at her student's insight, availability and deniability being 2 major ones. But more than that, there is a specific reason I am sending Lee. The elder Chunin perked up at that, and Sakura arched an eyebrow. Lee's little deficiency will be an asset this time, the leader of the Konohagakure explained, you see the chief bandit is a survivor of a dying bloodline. The only other living heir we knew of was killed last year. Their Kekkei Genkai allows them to smell chakra. Of course, they don't really smell it, but that's how they describe it, and the sense is tied to their noses. Anyway, this power makes it very hard for most ninja to ambush them, and allows them to easily track a ninja after they have the person's scent. She leaned back, pointing at Guy's protege, but Lee, your chakra restriction means you could walk right up to him, and he'd never know you were a ninja. And Sakura, your chakra control is good enough that you should be able to hide yourself, so long as you don't have to use any jutsu. Plus, I want you along in case Tetsuo is injured. Question. Lee called out, sticking his hand straight up in the air. The head ninja nodded in amusement, and the young man stated his query. I understand why we cannot eliminate the bandits, but that does not explain what is to prevent them from kidnapping Mr. Masamune again. Well, I have already sent a squad on to Tetsuo's village, she smirked at her own cleverness, ignoring the fact that his question was a statement, 3 of our craftsmen ninjas, 2 chunin and 1 genin. Officially, they will be there to learn metallurgy and old-fashioned forging techniques from a master. The fact that they are also there to protect him is not something we will broadcast. Anything else? They both shook their heads, and Tsunade leaned forward, picking up the mission request folder. I'm placing Lee in charge. Get your stealth gear, and head out as soon as possible, the Hokage ordered, handing the file to the young man. The two ninjas bowed slightly, and then hurried out of the room. Sakura was only mildly surprised when Rock Lee met her at the gates in a black jumpsuit and vest otherwise identical to his normal attire. There was minor difference in that the brawler now wore full gloves and ninja tabi instead of his usual sandals. Instead of her regular uniform, Sakura wore a traditional stealth shozaku of a dark gray material, just a shade or two away from black. Like Lee, she was completely covered from the neck down. Her infiltration uniform also had a standard shinobi hood, but it currently hung loose on the back of her neck. Are you ready to? Rock Lee started to ask, but his statement was interrupted. Hey, Sakura, Lee. Naruto shouted as he jogged up. Good morning, Naruto. Lee inclined his head to his friendly rival. You two have a mission. The youngest Chunin asked, considering their apparel. You think? Sakura asked, fondly sarcastic. She briefly considered asking to borrow the blonde's stealth kunai, but considering their origin and everything that had happened recently, she decided she against it. And to what do we owe the pleasure, Naruto? Lee queried in kind. I'm meeting Hinata here, Uzumaki answered with a broad grin. We're gonna work on our C-rank earth and lightning ninjutsu. Lee smiled to show his understanding, and Sakura turned away, unwilling to show them her frown. But Guy's student caught a glimpse of her face, and looked thoughtful. Naruto, a softer voice called out, and the medic started walking. We really should head out, Lee, Sakura said, starting to jog before her third teammate could recognize them. Of course, the appointed leader agreed. Naruto, I will see you later. Please say hello to Hinata for me. Sure thing. Naruto returned Lee's thumbs up. Good luck. Their trip was expected to take the duo a day and a half, and for most of the first day, they traveled without speaking. An hour after they finished the dinner break, Lee broached the subject that had been on his mind since they left the village. Sakura, is there something going on between you and Hinata? Lee asked her as they jogged down the path. Did Tenten tell you that? Sakura snapped, though she instantly regretted her tone. No, he shook his head, confused by her words and her anger. I was simply asking based on your avoidance of Hinata this morning, and subsequent solemn mood. Does Tenten know something about this? Well, her temper cooled, she answered. Hinata and I had an altercation in front of the other girls. I thought maybe Tenten had told you and Neji. Tenten has not spoken to me about it, he informed her, though I cannot say if she said anything to Neji. Knowing he might be treading on thin ice, Lee could not help but continue anyways. Did Hinata say something to you about your feelings for Naruto? Sakura slowed down, her emotions warring in her. Part of her was happy that Lee was taking her side by implying Hinata was at fault, even if she was fully aware who the guilty party truly was. But as before, she was annoyed and mortified by the implication that she felt more than friendship for Naruto. Why do people keep saying that? She asked, carefully controlling her tone between outraged and curious. First Ino, then Hinata, then Shizune, and now you. I am not in love with Naruto Uzumaki. I am sorry, Sakura. I just assumed because, but the taijutsu expert's reasoning was cut off as she continued ranting. I love Sasuke, she screamed. I've always loved Sasuke, and no matter what he does, I will keep loving Sasuke. And even if I didn't have Sasuke, how could I have feelings for Naruto? He's just an annoying, short, untalented, unreliable, unattractive hindrance. He gets in the way in missions, he. Sakura ran out of steam her gaze falling to the ground as tears started to run down her face. He isn't any of those things, he never was, except for short, and maybe annoying. He has always stood by me, put his life on the line for me. He's everything Sasuke isn't, loyal, kind, generous. He never lets me down, not really. He forgives people, and never stops moving forward. I mean, I'd have to be a total idiot not to be in love with Naruto, right? She looked up Lee, smiling stupidly as she wiped her eyes. It's so messed up. He was right there, totally in love with me for all those years. And I never gave him a second thought. I didn't even notice what I could have had until he told me it was already too late. And after that, it seemed like it was all I could think about. It seems like karma is taking her turn at me, she moaned. On a roll, Naruto spent all that time watching me fawn over Sasuke, and now I get to watch him with Hinata. Except that Naruto and Hinata are happy, and Sasuke just made me miserable. Lee put a comforting hand on Sakura's shoulder, and she laughed at herself. Listen to me, she ran her forearm across her face again, whining about karma, when I've been a total jerk to Hinata this last year. I deserve this misery, turning down love and then begrudging it in my friends. Sakura, I do not believe that at all, he told her, you are not a bad person. I have not told this to anyone, but I had similar feelings 2 years ago. Right after Neji attained the rank of Jonin, he and Tenten also started dating. And I was quite jealous. Not that I had any interest in Tenten, he said quickly, not wanting Sakura to doubt his intense, burning love for her, but I had failed to make Tokubutsu Jonin, after learning I could never become a full Jonin. And I felt very much alone. So I started to act badly towards the two of them, avoiding them whenever I could and challenging Neji any time I could not steer clear of him. How did you get over it? She asked quietly. Guy-sensei gave me the drubbing of my life, he explained as his thoughts drifted back, pushing me harder than he ever had before. In our sparring match, he showed me just how far I still had to go. He defeated me almost without effort. Then he extended his hand to me, and told me if I had the energy to be jealous of my friend's happiness, I had the energy to work harder to find my own happiness. Sakura nodded thoughtfully. Then she caught sight of her covered hands, and remembered where they were, and what they were supposed to be doing. Lee, I'm sorry, she exclaimed, I got distracted. We better go. She darted forward again, and Lee joined her. I will not mention the matter further, he resolved, unless Sakura chooses to bring it up. Sakura raised 3 fingers, and then pointed to her left. Lee nodded. He pointed at his eyes, and then indicated the right side of the building. The kunoichi nodded, and split off in that direction. After reaching the region where the bandits operated, it had taken the pair less than an hour to locate their quarry. The outlaws had discovered an abandoned village, and set up shop in the remaining homes and stores, repairing the structures. The Leaf Shinobi looked for signs of a working forge from the outskirts of the town, but found none. This left them with more than a dozen potential places the craftsmen could be held. They continued to scan the village, eliminating only 2 of the possible targets before night fell. As darkness covered the village of raiders, they donned their cowls and moved in. Sakura shook her head in a slow, exaggerated manner when she finished surveying the 3rd home. Across the street, Lee nodded once, and started his study of the former general store. The medic watched for any guards while the brawler silently pried back one of the boards over the window, so he could look inside. After he scanned the interior, he set the plank back into place and shook his head in turn. Sakura sighed silently under her hood, and the 2 ninjas circled around the backs of the buildings to remain hidden while moving to the next set of structures. Tsunad's apprentice failed to find the blacksmith in the partially repaired forge, but on the other side of the thoroughfare, her comrade gave her a big thumbs up, and she presumed his usual toothy grin under the mask. She started to cross the road, to join him, but he held up his hand, palm out. She shrugged in askance. He held up his hand again, this time with 4 fingers splayed wide. Then he made a sword-drawing motion. She nodded, biting her lip. 4 armed guards would be nearly impossible to sneak past without jutsu. And knocking out all of them before one raised the alarm was equally unlikely. Their best bet was to create some sort of distraction, but Sakura could only think of one possibility that did not involve chakra techniques. And her pride would not let her do that, especially since she had avoided those classes at the academy. Her mind wandered, and she started to wonder if Lee always felt so restricted. Lee, on the other hand, was running through his options. He knew he could defeat the guards, but like Sakura he doubted he could do so before one of them called for help. He could set up an explosion with his black powder packets, but that sort of distraction would violate the spirit of their orders, and would be used only as a last resort. The village had modern lights, but it was unlikely the bandits were hooked into the power grid and were paying an electric bill. This meant they had to have a generator somewhere. If they could find it and disable it, the duo would have the time and additional cover they needed. There was still a risk the sabotage would be discovered, but it appeared to be the best option. Before he could signal Sakura his plan, the door to the large pub next to the forge burst open, and a trio of bandits stumbled out. Judging by their flushed cheeks, glassy eyes, and inability to walk straight, Lee concluded they were all in an advanced state of inebriation. 2 of them still had flasks out, and one took a deep swig. Bushy brows instantly formed a new strategy, and he signed for Sakura to circle around to join him as he gathered the tools for the initial push. A few seconds later, the medic joined him, and the bandits started to separate. He indicated she should look at the back of the house, while he moved closer to the street. As she stepped back, she saw what had caught his interest. The living quarters had a back entrance, however, unlike the rest of the building, the door and its lock were top quality, and brand new. She extracted her lock picks, and he nodded. Then his sign language told her she should wait for his indication, and she inclined her head in understanding. The thieves had finished their slow, drunken turns, and were precariously preparing to stagger away. Lee selected his first weapon, a rock the size of his fist. As the stoutest and shortest of the rogues took a step forward, the leaf ninja pegged the robber's supporting foot with the stone. The besotted man lurched backwards, off balance, and bumped into his comrades, all but knocking him over. "Hey, watch where you'll goin'," one of the brigands slurred angrily. "Sorry, I tripped," the fat bandit glanced down in confusion. "Whatever," the third, tallest renegade growled, returning to his original course. Lee was not about to let them get away that easily, and launched his second projectile. The walnut tapped the rotund man in the back of the head like a flicking finger. "Hey," the outlaw whirled back, and pushed both of their shoulders, "you didn't have to hit me. I apologized." The second fighter looked confused, but the last of the group was not concerned who hit their overweight ally. "Hat'll teach you not to drink so much you can't walk," the third rogue snarled, leaning down over the heavier man. Lee tensed in anticipation. You don't have to be so mean about it," the patsy suddenly burst into tears, sobbing messily. The previously aggressive bandit took a step back from the mopey drunk, surprised and worried. Lee slapped his palm to his forehead, watching his plan fall apart as the third brigand stammered an apology. But the Konoha shinobi was rescued when the second man shoved the third aside and punched the crying thief full in the face. "I've had enough of you, you frillin' crybaby," he shouted. "Every freaking time we get blitzed, you start bawlin'." "Hey, hat's goin' too far," the tall renegade blinked in shock. For his protest, he received a fist to the gullet. The broad warrior regained his feet, no longer crying. Instead his eyes almost glowed with anger, and he charged forward, his arms spread wide. He caught both of his drinking buddies, and plowed them into the ground. With matched roars of anger, the three began brawling in earnest. Lee pumped his fist in victory as more men poured out of the bar. Though a few seemed content to hang back and watch, most joined the fray enthusiastically. In short order 10 men and 2 women were trading blows in the mass melee. As the racket grew, more lights turned on, and heads began to emerge from the living quarters. "What is that?" Lee heard a muffled complaint emerge from the makeshift prison. "I dunno," someone answered stupidly. "You two go check," the first voice instructed in exasperation. The front door opened, and 2 of the guards emerged. The first had a dim face, but it lit with joy seeing the battle. The other was taller, with a handsome face and carefully coiffed hair. "It's just a brawl," the dense one said again. "Then go put an end to it," the leader growled. "We don't want our guests to be overly tired, do we?" "Okay," the brainless bandit sounded disappointed. His other teammate stepped forward. "Break it up," the vain rogue shouted indignantly. Lee had been waiting for this, and the target was better than he could have hoped for. He palmed the pebble he had collected, and flicked it towards the edge of the melee. He had noticed a sharp bit of quartz on the ground, and when the pebble hit it, the jagged stone shot up, cutting the sentry's face. The lieutenant reached up, and felt the bloody wound. When he took his hand away, his face wound up with an exaggerated fury. "That's it," he roared, leaping into the fray with both arms swinging. Lee gave Sakura the thumbs up as the fight grew louder, and some of the spectators were drawn in as the perimeter expanded. With the din of the melee covering her, the nimble kunoichi opened the deadbolt. A few seconds later, there was a rumble of boots inside the house, and the bandit leader exited. Lee signaled Sakura even as the chief began to punish his subordinates. The medic slipped in, and reappeared seconds later. She was carrying a slight figure. The prisoner was manacled and covered from the waist up by an old sack. "Don't worry," Lee whispered, "we're here to rescue you." The hostage went limp in relief, and the 2 shinobi darted back into the woods. After they were a few miles distant, the Leaf soldiers came to a halt. After taking down their hoods, they removed the bindings from their prize. But both were surprised and dismayed as removing the ratty bag revealed the small yet obvious swell of S, and then a definitively feminine face. She had shoulder-length brown hair, and bright, sharp violet eyes. She studied the ninjas with reserved interest. You are not Tetsuo Masamune, Lee informed the woman. She blinked at him in surprise. No, I'm Mara, she agreed. Which means you are not here to save me, the recent captive said darkly. Well, it's not like we're going to send you back, Sakura groused. The other woman nodded, convinced by the ninja's sarcasm. Are you hurt? Lee prompted. They did not. Other than being kidnapped and tied up, I'm fine, she shrugged ironically. I guess I'm too valuable or not pretty enough to be raped. I disagree, Lee protested. You are quite attractive. Thanks, Mara said nervously, edging closer to Sakura. Is he hitting on me? She asked the kunoichi softly. No, he's just absurdly straightforward, Sakura smiled reassuringly. If he was hitting on you, he'd either ask you out on a date or ask you to marry him, depending on his level of interest. Okay, Mara chuckled, feeling strangely at ease with the odd pair. Mara, why did they capture you? Sakura asked as she began to treat the other woman's chafed wrists with ointments and bandages. I'm a software engineer, Mara explained to her rescuers. I was told they wanted me to develop a program to monitor high-energy chakra interactions inside of a single, limited spatial quantum. I believe I understood the word, chakra, Lee stated, his eyes wide as saucers, though at this point I am not even 100% sure of that. I think she means, like what would happen if more than one person used a genjutsu on you, but each illusion made you see something different, Sakura tried to explain, remembering the events of 11 days ago. Yes, that is an interesting analogy, the computer scientist nodded as she said that, but then immediately started shaking her head, but it has almost nothing to do with what I said. Imagine instead that I were a ninja too. We had just finished a fight, and there was some sort of jutsu I had to use. And I don't have enough energy left. If one of you loaned me the chakra, my body would absorb it fine. But if neither one of you had enough power, and you both fed me chakra, how would they interact, and what would it do to my body? Sakura understood what the programmer was saying, but Lee still looked lost. Then he shook his head and settled into a determined visage. That is not important now. Sakura, stay with Miss Mara, Lee ordered, sliding his cowl back over his hair and face. I will see if I can find and liberate the blacksmith before the brawl is ended. He removed his black arm and leg bands, setting them quietly on the ground, and then disappeared faster than either woman could follow. Lee decided the gods must have been pleased they rescued Mara, because the first house he checked contained Tetsuo Masamune and a single guard. And this time Guy's student was certain he had the right target. The blacksmith was not covered. He was working on some sort of chemical mixture, and matched the picture the shinobi had been supplied. Hearing the fight die down, Lee knew he had to move quickly. He grabbed the inner slats of the window, and pulled, causing the glass to shatter outwards. Before the bandit could react, the taijutsu expert dove through the broken window, and laid the guard out cold with a single blow to the back of the neck. Mr. Masamune, Lee whispered for confirmation. The smith nodded carefully. I was hired to rescue you, the ninja explained. Lee grabbed one of the unformed lumps of metal and tossed it through to broken window so it landed amidst the glass shards. The team glanced at the chemicals, but did not know what any of them were. Are any of these alcoholic? The shinobi asked quickly. The captive shook his head, but then added, but I think he has a flask. Lee found the canteen, and confirmed the smell of its contents. He poured a liberal portion down the brigand's throat and splashed some down the kidnapper's shirt. He discarded the booze under one of the front windows, and positioned a chair over it. He then situated the unconscious guard so it appeared he was watching the brawl. Finally, Lee took one of the iron ingots, and smashed over where he struck the man, hiding the knife hand bruise under a larger, square one. He hoped the bandits didn't have any medics capable of telling the difference. Hurry, Lee hissed, we must go. Not yet, the metal worker grabbed 2 vials, and limped over to a barrel. This is a bath that greatly increases the shearing strength of ferrous metals, the middle-aged craftsman told the ninja. Lee simply nodded, having appeared foolish once already that evening. Tetsuo poured the 2 flasks into the barrel. And now it's an oxidizer that will make treated metals rust 4 times as fast, the smith said triumphantly. He let Lee help him through the window. The ninja quickly exited as well. Once outside, Lee crouched down. Get on, he told the craftsman. I will not, Masamune objected proudly. We need to move as quickly as possible, Rock Lee explained, and even at your best, I doubt you could keep up with me. So you can choose, do I carry you fireman style, princess style, or piggyback? Looking slightly mortified, the older man climbed on the ninja's back. After the two men met up with Sakura and Mara, and Lee re-equipped his weights, they set out to put some distance between themselves and the thieves' village. After a few hours of carrying the former captives, Lee called for a break, so they could rest and Sakura could treat the blacksmith's injuries. Once the shinobi had recharged, they resumed their escape, running through the night. By mid-morning they had crossed back into the land of fire, and afternoon they reached Masamune's town. They handed the craftsman off to his 3 new apprentices, and then called the village to report their progress. The Hokage asked him to bring Mara back to the village for debriefing, and the scientist tentatively accepted the request. They took in a meal in the small city, and then the 3 of them left at a slightly slower pace. Upon reaching the Konohagakure, they were greeted at the gate by Rado Namiashi. Miss Mara, the older ninja greeted her gently, if you will come with me. The Hokage would like to see you right away. She nodded nervously, and looked to Sakura and Lee. It's okay, the medic tried to ease her worries. The software designer bobbed her head again, and took up a position following the older ninja. Sakura, Lee, Rado addressed them. Lady Tsunade instructed me to tell you she will call you when she is ready to see you. All right. Lee gave the Tokubutsu Jonin a thumbs up, then turned to his temporary teammate again. I will see you later, Sakura. Lee, she called gently, stepping towards him. What is it, Sakura? He asked carefully. I wanted to say thank you, she told him. On our way out, after our conversation, you confided in me, and did not judge me. You helped me come to a decision. Sakura took a deep breath, and stated, I'm going to be nice to Hinata. I had said before that I would try to be nicer, but it was just a cop-out. But now I'm going to hold myself to it. Even if it means I have to count to 3 before I talk to her. Well, then, I guess that means you are finally available. Lee asked hopefully. No, I haven't given up on Naruto, either. I'll make him see that he's still in love with me. Anyways, I had to thank you for helping me figure that out. I'll see later, okay. As she ran off, almost skipping, Lee wondered if she would be able to reconcile her seemingly opposed resolutions. Sighing with slight disappointment, Guy's pupil headed home. First, previous ch 61 of 170 next. Review, jump, share, email, Facebook, Twitter, story, follow favorite, author, follow favorite, contrast, dark, light, font, small, medium, large, XL, Twitter, help, sign up, cookies, privacy, terms of service. We use cookies. By using our services, you acknowledge that you have read and accept our. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.